Good afternoon. We are working in REPL today. We're going to be working on some useful game mechanic functions. So you can define your own function, and you can create your very own functions to accomplish tasks that are not already built into Python. Basically, it's how you do almost everything when you're programming. Okay, so let's read the instructions here. It says useful game mechanic functions. Create a function that calculates the damage done by a projectile and updates the player's health. So we need some type of function to calculate damage done after our player is hit by a projectile. Okay, and then create a function that calculates healing done by a projectile and updates the player's health. So you have one that does damage and one that does healing. So we have one for damage and one for healing here. And then after you've done that, you want to, on your damage done function, update it so the player's health. So if the player's health is below 0, they vanish. Okay, so basically, if they lose all their lives, or if they lose all their health, they go away. They vanish. So they're no longer playing the game. 13 says on your healing done function, update it so that the player's health cannot exceed a maximum limit. Okay, so how do we get started with this? Well, first off, we need to make some variables to hold some values for us. We need one for player health, and let's go ahead and make our player's current health. We can make it 50, and I want that to be an equal sign. Okay, so our player health is equal to 50. So, and then we're also going to need a couple other things. We need our player's maximum health. So let's make a player max health. So now we have a maximum health. I'm going to make their maximum health 100. We're also going to need projectile damage done. So let's do projectile damage. And we need one more. This needs an O in there. Projectile healing. Okay, so for the damage done, I'm going to do, I don't know, let's do 5. And for the healing, I'm going to do 10. Alright, so we have 4 variables here. This is my player's current health. Oops. This is my player's current health. And this is my player's maximum health. Projectile damage and projectile healing. Now you don't have to write these comments. I like to write comments because they help me remember what stuff is. But as you'll notice here, if you're able to write your variables in such a way that they make sense, you don't need redundant comments. So this is kind of redundant, but I'm doing it anyway so you can see a good way to code. So, alright, now it says create a function that calculates the damage done. To create a function, we have to use def, that's for defining a function. And this function, what it needs to do, it needs to calculate some damage done. So basically when our character gets hurt. So I'm going to do hurt. Our guy got hurt, and we need to do something. What do we need to do? We need to, let's do print. And this is just going to be like our preliminary thing here. We're going to test it first, and then we'll have it finalized by the time we get to the end. So we want to take the player's health, and we would like to subtract some type of damage. projectile damage. Okay, so what this does here is it takes the player's health, which is currently at 50, and it removes some health away by just taking away 5, which is projectile damage. Now, in order to actually test this and make sure it actually works, we're going to call our function for the first time. We're going to say hurt, and at the very end, I'm going to do. Let's just run this. Let's run this and see this. 45. So our player's current health when we started this was 50. The projectile hit him and then he took 5 damage. So now he has 45. Alright, that's exactly what we wanted. Now, perfect. Let's leave that right there and let's move on to another function. We need to create a function that calculates the healing done by a projectile. So I'm going to make another function, def, and this one I'm going to call it heal. So we have heal and we have hurt. And for this function, it's going to be a lot like the one above it. We're going to take print, and we're going to move it down here. We're going to take the player's health. This time we're healing the person. We're not damaging them. So instead of subtracting, we're going to add, and instead of using projectile damage, we're going to use projectile healing. Just like that. Projectile health, projectile healing. And we need to call this function to see that it's actually working. So I'm going to comment this one out, and I'm going to do heal. So it should be 50 plus 10. That should be 60. Run. That's right. So we got the correct answer. So our function is doing what we want. Now let's think about this. Right here, what is this actually saying? It's just saying to print it out. It is not actually changing the person's health. And I can show you that by, we could say, let's go down here at the bottom, and we're going to say print, and then we could say player health. So this is their current health. Okay, so let's just do the heal one. We'll just do healing. So the player should end with 60 health, and the current health should say, let's make it say player's current health. Player's current health, and it's going to list their health. So let's run this. It said 60 from the heal, but the player's current health, our variable player health, is still at 50. Okay, that means the only thing our function actually does is it just tells us what the result would be. It doesn't actually change the player's health at the top. It doesn't change this variable player health. So let's do that. How do we change a variable? Well, all we have to do is do player health. So here, let me show you this. Right. We're going to be editing line 9. Instead of printing it out, we're just going to change it. It's going to look very similar to what we have. Let's get rid of the print statement. And then all we're going to do is equals, and we're going to say player underscore health. So we take the player health, we reach into that box, we grab the player's health, and we subtract the damage from it. So, and then we store it back into player health. All right. Now, if we run this, this makes sense to me, and it probably makes sense to you. But if we run it, we're going to get an error, and let's read the error and see what it is. If it would like to run for me. Ooh, it's no error. Looks good. Oh, because we didn't call the function. We didn't do the hurt function. We did the heal function. Let's do the hurt function. Duh. Hurt. Alright, so hurt. Now the player's health should be 50, take away 5. So it should be, oh, got an error here. Alright, now this error says unbound local error. Local variable player health referenced before assignment. The problem with this is these values up here, these are global variables. Everybody can see them, but not everybody can change them. These functions can see the values, but they can't change them. Right here, this is it wants to change player's health, but we haven't given it the ability to actually do that. So we're not changing projectile damage. We're only changing player health. So I need to give this function the ability to actually alter this. So how do I do that? One way is by saying global. It'll turn blue, and I want this function to have the ability to change player's health. So now if I run this, I said, okay, you can not only can you see the player's health, but you can also change it. You can alter what it is in the whole scope of this whole program. So I'm going to run it again, and it says player's current health is 45. So that's good. The player, we did damage to the player, and the player took the damage, and it changed the variable over the entire thing here. And the variables in here, these are local until you give them ability to change this stuff outside of it. Okay, so now I want to also give a little bit more feedback. I want to say print. I would also like to say player took, and I want to show how much damage they took. The player took, and then so now the player took some damage. The player took this amount of projectile damage. Let's see what it looks like now. Player took, and then I'm going to make it look a little bit better. Damage. Run this. Player took 5 damage. Perfect. Alright, let's move on to the next one. We need to do basically the same thing here if we want all of this to work. So let's grab this part here, global player health, because this thing also needs to make a change to the player health. So now that gives it the ability to do that. And in order to make a change to this, we need to actually update the player's health. So I'm going to do player underscore health is equal to, there we go. So now whether I choose this function or that function, they will both actually update the health. If I do the hurt function, it'll tell us that the player took some damage. Now we can give this something similar to this one so we can get a little bit more feedback. The player was healed, and not projectile damage. We want to do projectile healing. The player was healed, health points. Okay, that might be, there we go, let's try that. And I'm going to comment this one out, and I will uncomment this one. And now I run it, and it says the player was healed 10 points. The player's current health is 60. Perfect. Alright, now all we need to do is if the player on your damage done function, we need to update it so that if the player's health is below 0, they vanish. I'm going to get rid of these two here. We don't need these anymore. So if the player's health is below 0, I want them to disappear. Okay, so let's go to the end. Let's add another line of code here. Let's say if player underscore health is less than, or let's do less than, no, let's do equal to, if the player's health is equal to 0, we want to print out player vanished. I don't know how to, whatever. Disappeared. Player disappeared. Alright, so the problem with this, okay, this will work in only one case. The only time that this will actually work is if the player's health hits exactly 0. We're going to need the player to not only vanish or disappear at 0, but we also need the player to disappear below 0, because there are not very many cases where the player's health hits exactly 0. There are, however, a lot of cases where the player's health might go into the negatives. An example of that might be if you're on your last leg and you have maybe 5 health left, and then somebody hits you with a rocket, you're probably going to take 100 damage, and you didn't go to 0, you went to negative 95 or something crazy like that. So this statement needs to also include 0 and the numbers below it. So if we make it this way, this will include both of those. It'll include all the numbers, including 0 below 0. So, all right, so that should fix that. All right, now we also want to do one more thing. On your healing done function, update it so that the player's health cannot exceed a maximum limit. So we're going to need another if statement here. We're going to go to the end of this and we're going to say if player underscore health is greater than what? Well, what's their maximum health? Their maximum health is 100. And then we're going to say if the player's maximum health, or if the player's health is above 100, we don't want it to keep on going, so we're going to say player underscore health is equal to 100. Alright, so that should work. Oh, there's another problem here. We did make a variable for maximum health, but we don't actually use it in this, and this is going to pose some problems for us. Your character may have 100 health maximum at level 1, but if your character levels up over time, he's going to probably end up getting more health. If you write your healing function like this, your player will never be able to get above 100 health when they try to heal. So you're going to want to make the health, the cap on it, to actually be dependent upon this variable here, because this variable per max health might change. So let's, instead of just using the number, let's replace this with the actual variable. Now, as the game goes on, we can update this number. Maybe he gets more health over time, more maximum health over time because he's leveling up, and that will be good. All right, so let's test our function out. Let's see, we have heal already going. Let's run it. Let's see if heal works. Heal still works. Now let's make the heal so powerful that it would heal our person above their maximum health. So let's change this projectile healing to something like 1,000. So now if this heal is activated, it will heal the player by 1,000, but we know the player's maximum health is not that high. It's only 100. So let's see what happens. Run. The player was healed by 1,000. Player's current health is 100. Okay, that is working just great. Alright, so we know that one's working. Let's put this back. And we're going to want to do, oops, not that one. We're going to want to do the exact same thing with this other function. Let's comment this heal out, and let's test our hurt function. So we have hurt. So when he gets hit, he's going to take some damage. Let's run this. Does it work? The player took 5 damage. The player's current health is 45, so that's good. Now we need to make the player take so much damage that it would actually make them disappear. Let's see if we can do that. Projectile damage, let's make this 500. That's way more health than they have to spare. They only have 50. Let's run this. The player disappeared because the player took 500 damage, and the player's current health is now negative 450. So this completes all of the requirements to this assignment. This looks wonderful, and we will be able to use things like this later on. This is a great function to use for Godot or Godot, and hopefully you guys learned how to use the define function, and I'll see you guys in the next time.